Welcome everybody to the Prescott BIA Board of Management meeting, April 12th, 2022. We have a lot to get through tonight. If everybody had a chance to go over your agenda package, so if we could just be mindful of that, that would be great. I'll call the meeting to order now, and could we have an approval of the agenda? Karen? And seconder, Kevin? Okay, any declarations of interest tonight? No. And there are no delegations or presentations. The minutes of the previous meeting recommended that the minutes dated March the 8th, 2022 be accepted as presented. Motion made by Belinda, seconded by Nicole. Good. The next thing on the agenda is just some information items for committee reports. Hopefully everybody had a chance to look over those. All of those points will be addressed in the staff reports as follows. And next, the financial report. Over to you, Karen.
Oh, you're muted, Karen.
To date, we've had $2,681 in expenses, and there are no new invoices to present tonight. And our total reserves as of the end of 2021 are $52,290.81. Any questions around the financial report?
Karen, could you just give us the total for each category, just all three, like admin and then like how much we have left in the budget?
Yeah, I don't think I have it broken down into that, Tracy. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't have it. Sorry, I didn't break that down. Yeah, just that the total that so far what we've spent so far is $2,437 in coordinator expenses, and then $243.23 for our OBIA membership.
Okay, that's perfect. Could we have a motion that the financial report be accepted as presented? Leslie?
Leslie, okay.
Next, the staff updates. Are you going first, Justin?
I am, yes. Okay. So I did put most everything in the report that was circulated with the package. First up is the website. So what I'm going to do is share my screen to preview where we are with the website. So you should be able to see. Having a little problem with the. So everyone should see the clock tower there now. Have I hit the right spot?
Yeah.
Okay, so
yep.
This is presently live, this portion on the Invest site. So what we did was sort of split the BIA website into two attached pieces. One that's on the Invest Prescott page, which is focused on the businesses themselves. So on business resources, on you as a BIA member, how you can get involved, what the BIA does, what's involved there. So it is now live because we already had this site on the new town page, because this is where we're posting the minutes and agendas. But it has information on the BIA, what the BIA is, who's on the board, how people become a part of the BIA, and links to those downtown business resources that I mentioned. So it's more of a basic informational page. The other side that's located on the Explore page that isn't live yet is the Riverwalk District and Explore the Riverwalk District pages. So this is the main splash page. I believe we had a look at this last meeting, but it's sort of fleshed out here now, which is the main Riverwalk District BIA page. So it's connected back to the Invest site over here, learn more about the Downtown Prescott BIA. But its focus is on linking into that business directory. So based on these general categories, we have it linking through to the main business directory, bringing up the downtown businesses in each category, going through that town directory. Under attractions, rather than using the directory, what we have done is put together a separate page focusing on those attractions on their own. So taking a lead from, for example, from a neighboring BIA in Ottawa that had a patios page on their page, we're putting together a patios of the Riverwalk page, which right now I believe totals 4, but we will be able to add things like the parkettes in the summer, as well as any other patio restaurants that take advantage of the patios. So that'll be a separate page with some information on the restaurants with patios. We'll link through to our Ontario by Bike, bike-friendly business area page, since that's such a key component to what we're doing with the sports tourism this summer. And then we'll have separate links here to each of the Riverwalk District attractions. So things like Fort Wellington, St. Lawrence Shakespeare, the harbor, the amphitheater, the farmers market, beach, park, golf club. Trail will also include, I'm going to add things like the fountain in there as well, and the Shakespeare Gardens in there as well as summer events such as the parkette or the pop-ups and the promenade. So that'll take people to more information either on the Prescott site or on the individual location site, whatever makes more sense, and in a pop-out, so they'll stay on the page. But that's will sort of give people a bit of a planning opportunity through the Riverwalk pages. So it should only be perhaps another week before that's ready to go live. We've yet to receive anything from the current vendor on the existing website, so we're still in a bit of a window of opportunity for getting this live, but it should be prepared to go live in the next week or so. So if anyone has any website related questions before I jump onward.
Like it's coming along really nicely.
Yeah, I think it looks really good.
Thank you.
I love the font, Justin, of accommodations and services and stuff. Lovely.
We're trying to run that one across most of the tourism related websites as well, just to have some consistency going through there. So on to point 2 on my report. You will remember, I believe it was last September or October, there was discussions about oversized Adirondack chairs and the opportunity for the BIA to perhaps sponsor an additional oversized Adirondack chair. After some discussions at the beautification committee last time through, it was suggested by the committee that perhaps an additional large Adirondack chair wasn't perhaps something that they were interested in continuing to pursue. So we were discussing some other options for potential sort of tourist photo-worthy locations, things that would draw people downtown to take pictures that could be used in Instagram tagging. And Elizabeth, who isn't here tonight, told us older folk about Instagrammable spaces, which is the idea that basically there are these locations that people will literally go to take a selfie or take a picture in front of and post to Instagram and tag them with the location and so forth. And they're relatively low cost, low effort locations. You find spots that could use perhaps a little sprucing up or that looked great to begin with, and you're just sort of adding some touches to. And you put together these kind of Instagram worthy, selfie worthy spaces to draw people down. You set up a little campaign at the start to get some people posting them and getting them up on Instagram. It provides a bit of a beautification aspect along with that tourism draw selfie aspect. So we did take a little tour around downtown to look for some potential spaces. And she put together what I'm told is called a mood board of the potential spaces. So this is between the old smoke shop and the pawn shop. I believe that's the old pawn shop wall here. And she pulled up some designs about specific murals. Now, we wouldn't be looking at asking anyone to let us paint directly on the brick. We'd look at more of a installation, temporary installation to go up. And we would be looking, if we did this, at more of something of a Prescott related theme to any sort of space that went up there, but it could be something where we could engage local artists, the high school, to participate and put together something to go up in a space like that. We also looked at this space between the physiotherapy center and the new sub shop. Looking at the idea of, could something go in along the wall there? Could we have some sort of specific space in there? Another option is just to work with the building owner to sort of put in some small fixtures that people are standing in front of, just sort of clean up the space a little bit. This is the mouse hole nook on the back of the former Journal building on Water Street in Prescott. Something as simple as planters in front of it matching the space, perhaps approaching the building owner about the possibility of paint or something on here, a mural, a small installation to go on there. And then at the front of that building, we have this space between that same building and the Shoppers Drug Mart building. And what sort of we're thinking or envisioning here is the potential of putting something like a wrought iron gate at the front, maybe 30 inches in, some Edison lighting across the depth in there, perhaps getting a painting or mural for that back wall, something for this white space over on the right-hand side, and sort of just creating this space where people would then, again, it's as simple as they stand in front of it and use it as a space for taking selfies. And then at the same time, we're getting a little bit of a beautification effort in that same space. So I don't know if that's something that people wanted to briefly discuss or think about now, or.
I think it would be a great idea. My feeling is if we're going to do it, then to launch it, doing all of those spaces, you know what I mean? Like launching it all at once. And so that it attracts people to come down, you know, like not just for one wall, but for all of those individual little spaces, almost have like a little, you know, pop-up touring type deal of the downtown core and these cute little spaces is my suggestion.
I like it too. The only thing that pops into my mind is we don't have anything that's kind of kid friendly. So can we look at finding maybe a location down at the beach or somewhere there that people would want to take their kids to?
That wall at Kelly's Beach that has a beautiful mural on it now. That could even be a spot. Mm.
Yeah, and even just promote that as part of some of the efforts that we're doing around the downtown. And if I could, I would almost suggest they're somewhat separate in a way, like the ones that we've identified for the downtown are really meant to be really geared to those downtown spaces. It's really meant to be that downtown revitalization kind of placemaking activity that, you know, kind of cleans up some of these spaces, maybe encourages some property owners to take a little bit more pride in place as well. I absolutely love the idea of the park, but given that's a public asset, we just have so much more flexibility around that, right? And I think this really goes more to that pride in place initiative. And this also kind of builds on, if you'll recall, we explored the idea of murals in the downtown. I think it was last year or the year before. We'd identified a couple of properties and approached some owners that had some, you know, essentially some blank walls that would make a perfect location to add a mural to. And unfortunately, we just didn't really get the buy-in from the properties that we approached at that time. And I think that project was a little bit more grandiose in scale and from an expense and, you know, time involved. This is something that, you know, we could really activate pretty quickly. And to Leslie's point, you know, promote it as a broader thing. So we can create more of a placemaking, come and explore, find our Instagrammable nooks and maybe even make a little bit of a competition out of it to attract some new visitors and introduce existing residents to some spaces that maybe they need to look twice at.
Does anyone else have any comments?
I love the mouse.
I love the idea. I think it'll really draw people and maybe that younger crowd as well down that are, you know, taking all the Instagram photos and looking for those Instagrammable moments. Yeah.
Has there been any discussion with any of the property owners about this?
Not yet. We haven't approached them yet.
Do we have any rules around that?
No, I think nothing to stop us from at least engaging in a conversation and seeing what, you know, interest there is there and what they would be prepared to do. And then of course, if there's, you know, required expense or contribution on the part of the town, we would come back for approval at a later date and have those details better fleshed out. But this is really just to kind of see if it's something the board's interested in and wants to endorse us exploring a little bit more and enter into those conversations.
Is there anyone else that would like to have a comment or anything like that? So we have a recommendation from the committee that the board withdraw funding for the oversized Adirondack chair project and direct staff to investigate potential Instagrammable locations in the Riverwalk district. Can I have a mover? Leslie? Seconder?
Second.
Pearl? Carried. Great. You're up again, Justin.
Still up. So my last little item in the report was about the Earth Day cleanup, the town community cleanup that'll go on April 23rd is the formal day for it. It'll be staged from down at Centennial Park, right down by the beach. And essentially they'll be engaging community members to come and help pick up the winter trash that has accumulated and just sort of take part in the beautification efforts of the town. And it was discussed the idea that would there be some way that we could engage the downtown businesses in such an effort. So I don't know if anyone has had any additional thoughts on that since it was last discussed, but a fairly straightforward solution would be just for us to send out a email newsletter to everyone, inviting them to participate in that. I believe I'm correct, Dana, that maybe a possibility of t-shirts involved in the cleanup that we may have.
T-shirts and little packages.
In little packages, so we could engage businesses in that way in just sort of a straightforward fashion to just try to get as many people as possible to pitch in the effort to get everything ready for the spring and summer.
Yeah. We could even say, like, send us your pitch in pictures.
Yeah, we could get the selfies
Yeah.
going early with the cleanup.
This kind of like a specific day?
So, I mean, the specific day for the town is April 23rd. I believe it's associated with Earth Day, which is April 22nd. So, I mean, it would just, to me, it would just be a, you know, if you want to get out and clean up around your space between, when is that? That would be between the 15th and the 24th as part of the Earth Week celebrations and the town cleanup, and just sort of encourage people to get out more informationally than anything else.
Could put it on our BIA Facebook page and just really promote it for sure.
We
Did
could
anyone
even,
else? Yeah, sorry.
we could even get a TikTok recorded of a lucky downtown business owner cleaning up their property and post it up.
They have to dance.
It's not entirely necessary to dance on TikTok. Just got to have the vibes.
Different.
But so I can do that this week. Send out something to the downtown businesses, just encouraging that, and we can put up a social media post for that, along with the operations department one for the more general cleanup.
Good.
So before I don't have anything else written in my report, but a couple things before I jump back over. As I mentioned, TikTok. I don't know if anyone is on TikTok, but we do now have an Explore Prescott TikTok where we've been highlighting local businesses, and I guess we've done one general downtown attractions type post. They are being posted through to the Explore Facebook page and Instagram as well, but you'll see those coming up, and Elizabeth is likely to pop in if you have a space downtown sometime in the next couple of months to take one of the TikToks and set it to whatever song's trending that day. So that'll be something that's happening too, going through there. And just a little brief on the farmers market. We're still accepting vendor applications. I believe we're up to about 10 full applications submitted now, but if you know anyone who may be interested, they can go to prescott.ca/farmersmarket or contact me. If they grow produce, that's even better. If you know any farmers that would like to come to Prescott every Saturday, please send them our way. And that's it for me.
Okay, the next agenda item, the 2022 BIA AGM. We have a date for it, the end of May, and we were talking about combining the website launch and with that.
Yes,
as well.
I did. Yes. So for the AGM, we were looking at the potential of having it at the amphitheater outdoors on May 31st. We discussed the idea at the committee meeting of also having sort of a website launch, directory relaunch as part of that, getting some speakers in as well to perhaps speak about events coming this summer, whether it be Shakespeare, Folk Fest, to be able to speak to the members. And we also discussed the idea of having some light refreshments, sandwiches and cookies, desserts, and perhaps some drinks at that as well for the people who attend. So I have reached out to one downtown cafe about the potential of catering some sandwiches and desserts and gotten some information back on that. I'll be looking into the beverages as well in the next week, but at the well, we will have a full other meeting prior to the AGM, so don't necessarily have to pass anything about the costs here tonight, but we did discuss at the committee the up to $500 for the budget for the AGM, which I believe should be right about exactly what we'd be looking at based on the initial costs for the food.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion on our budget for the AGM? Kevin? Oh, you're in favor?
That we reserve 500 or spend up to $500 on the 2022 AGM. Does that make sense? I make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Kevin. Okay, the next staff update, Digital Main Street, or Dana, are you gonna do that?
That is me.
Okay.
Thanks, Tracy. So just actually, we had some wonderful news come in within the past couple of weeks. Another round of Digital Main Street 4.0 has been announced, and it's actually been funded for a full 2 years this time. So we now have an opportunity to apply for the full a full 2-year program. Very similar program to years past under the 2.0 and 3.0 that we participated in. So we would receive full funding to retain the Digital Main Street coordinator for the next 2 years. And given that we are actually in that agreement under contract with the Ontario Business Improvement Association for that program, we do have the opportunity to just simply carry forward. So we've received, thank you to Tracy for providing a letter of support on that behalf of the BIA. That was very time sensitive, so we did have to proceed with applying last week. We've received letters of support from Township of Augusta and Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal. Again, all partners really excited to move forward with the program once again this year. So fingers crossed it's approved. And as I mentioned, not a whole lot of changes to the program. One thing we were really excited to hear about, though, is that businesses that have been previously funded through the Digital Transformation Grant will now have the opportunity to reapply in phases, depending on when those businesses first received the funding support. But that means that it'll be an extremely busy program as well. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for businesses to apply to that grant program. So our coordinator will be very busy engaging businesses throughout the South Grenville region. So we hope to receive word. I was actually hoping we might even hear something by today, but nothing yet. But we'll definitely send an email notice out to the group as soon as we receive word on that funding application. And I also wanted to just take the opportunity to thank council for their ongoing support of the program and endorsing us to proceed with applying. And hopefully the board is in support as well and continues to endorse the program if successful. And that's it under that item. And then I was just going to provide, if there's no comments or questions on that, I'll just move on to just a quick update on our coordinator time allocation. To date, we're running into we're at the first quarter of 2022. So I thought it would be time to bring forward an update. Nothing out of sorts or no overages to report as far as the coordinator time. We're right on track, averaging about 33 hours a month for that position, the coordinator allocation. So no concerns as far as that is. And if there's any comments or, suggestions for changes from the board, this would be a time or any time to bring those forward. But I will assume that everyone is pleased with the current arrangement.
I don't think we'd be where we are right now without Justin, and he's done a great job.
Completely
Fantastic
agree.
work.
Completely agree. Thank
100%.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's okay.
He's been a wonderful addition. I'm sure, I know, to the BIA, but to the whole, the entire town of Prescott team as well. We're really excited. We've been able to activate a lot more on some big projects that we've been hoping to move forward with, and the ideas and just the creative energy that he brings forward is it's really inspiring, and it really keeps me on my toes and motivated as well. So
That's awesome.
and I think I've got one more item. Oh, did we bring that forward, Justin? I think we were going to bring that forward. Did we skip over the committee updates? I think we were going to address, I think there was going to be a request to see if the board endorsed, we talked about lighting at our promotions committee. And I think we were going to bring forward possibly a request to see if the board wanted to endorse us moving forward with the pole mount lights that we discussed, the lighthouses specifically. Justin, I don't know if you've got the notes in front of you there, but I did not open up the, you can probably summarize the discussion much better than I can that actually took place at committee level. Just searching for these notes here.
So the recommendation at the committee, am I unmuted?
Yep, you're good.
I can't actually see my screen right now. Recommendation at the committee was to recommend to the board to direct staff to get mock-ups and pricing for lighthouse lighting and to investigate potential solar panel options.
So that's essentially just an update on that to say that we're more than prepared to proceed with that if that's something that the board would want to endorse. I've already had some conversations with lighting suppliers, and it's definitely doable. And I'm working with one of our, the actually same supplier who did our snowflakes on coming up with at least some mock concepts to bring forward for potential approval at the next meeting, along with confirmed pricing.
That sounds good. Are there any questions or comments from anybody?
They did a really nice job with the snowflakes.
Yeah, we're really happy with them.
Yeah.
I think it would be a nice complement. This would be more that year-round lighting, also looking at solar options, and just had an afterthought too. If they can't be sourced right from the lighting supplier, I'm sure that there's an adapter kit that could probably be ordered for these lights. So it's something that we can definitely explore, even if they aren't available from the supplier. But I did provide the supplier with the concept rendering that Leslie had prepared, as well as a picture of a line kind of drawing outline of our lighthouse, the Dominion Lighthouse. And I think, everyone, the consensus was that we're really trying to replicate as close as we can get to the lighthouses that we have in the community, as well as incorporating a really nice water feature at the base of the light as well. So that's kind of the instruction that I've provided, and hopefully the mock-ups are something that we're happy with and prepared to move forward with.
Mm-hmm. Justin, would you mind just reading that recommendation out again?
Sure. It is recommend to direct staff to get mock-up and pricing for lighthouse lighting and to investigate a solar power option for the lights. So I guess downtown lighting rather than lighthouse lighting would make more sense in a more general vein.
Okay, could I have a mover? Leslie, seconder, Linda?
A second.
All in favor? Great. Okay, I'll read the recommendation and then I'll let Justin give us some background for the recommendation, if everybody's okay with that. So a recommendation from our committee that the board approve $2,000 to sponsor the farmers market stage for the 2022 market season.
But we had discussed this previously at the last meeting, and then again at the promotions committee. I brought it up in my report last time, and then we discussed it, I believe, at the promotions committee this week or last month. The idea would be that the BIA would sponsor the stage where we have entertainment every week at the farmers market for a cost of $2,000. That cost is less than what it costs to put on the entertainment there every week. We end up paying about $150 per performer, plus around $45 for music rights. But that would help us subsidize the cost of that, as well as giving the BIA a larger space position at the farmers market. More visibility at the farmers market would allow us to get some BIA branded signage for the stage, a roll-up banner for, I had at the previous meeting a little bit of a mock-up there similar to the existing rolling banner, but as a Riverwalk District stage sponsored by the Downtown Prescott BIA. We also discussed the idea of getting some A-frames to place down by the marina and in the Riverwalk, just pointing people towards the live music. We already do that for the farmers market in general, but we can do some additional ones so people know where the music they're hearing is coming from when they're down there. So last summer, the BIA allocated $1,000 to support entertainment at the 6 September markets. So this would be $2,000 for the whole season, and we would brand our market stage, whether it was in the market square or if we have them in other locations this summer, it would always be the Riverwalk District stage sponsored by the Downtown Prescott BIA.
Okay, any questions or comments from anyone?
I think it's amazing.
What was the overall cost, Justin, for the whole summer?
Perspective cost for this summer?
Yeah.
It would be
Give or take.
in the neighborhood of $3,500.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions, comments? I think it's great too, because it gives you that place for people to gather, right, and to connect. And I mean, we saw with how much the town loved the rinks and loved going down to the harbor and everything else. This would be one more spot. Doesn't cost a whole lot of money to go to a farmer's market. You could go down, enjoy yourselves, and connect with the community. So I think it's a great idea. So I'll just read out that recommendation again, and I'll be looking for somebody to endorse it. So that the board approved $2,000 to sponsor the farmers market stage for the 2022 market season.
I'll endorse.
Seconder? Karen? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Next, bring into the Riverwalk promotion. This was also something the promotions committee looked at. The recommendation from the committee, it was recommended by the promotions committee that the board approve $250 from the promotions budget for prizes associated with the Spring into the Riverwalk promotion. Did you want to add some comments to that, Justin?
Sure. So building from things like, if people remember last summer, the Rediscover the Riverwalk we did just as things were reopening with a bit of a scavenger hunt clue-based activity downtown, finding businesses, as well as the scavenger hunt that was done over March break that people really enjoyed throughout town. We had originally talked about the idea of doing something similar to an Easter egg hunt for the BIA. Now, we sort of had some logistical issues getting it ready for Easter, but at the same time, we were also thinking that it made more sense as sort of a longer spring promotion, that as we get into the time frame when people will prefer to be outside. I know in talking to quite a few people downtown, they're seeing more people in their stores over the past few weeks. And I think that's going to increase and increase. And then we also have events such as the farmers market opening and the museum and visitor center opening in May that we can build up to. So we were thinking about a 2-week spring into the Riverwalk scavenger hunt / geocaching / go find spots based on a hint through social media throughout the downtown. What we'd like to do is take maybe 10 total locations, maybe 5 businesses and 5 attractions downtown. And we would post a hint on our social media, similar to the Rediscover the Riverwalk last summer. And then I'm having a bit of a freezing issue, but I should be able to share. The hints would lead them to something like this posted at the location where the people can then scan the QR code, and it would take them to the ballot and they could enter to win that particular prize associated with that location. We use the QR code ballots for the I Love Local restaurant promotion, and people seem to be able to use those. We got a large number of entries through there and scans on that QR code. So this sort of takes the having to come to and from town hall, say, to fill out a ballot or to find locations. They can do it directly from these locations. The idea would be that we would place these sort of in an inside location, whether behind glass where possible, inside, say, a store or an attraction where that was possible. And we would spread them out over the 2 weeks running from the 7th of May to the 21st of May. So they're being posted every couple of days with the hints, but the tags would be up for that entire period. You could enter a ballot on all 10 tags if you can find them, and then we'll draw one winner from each one of those tags for Prescott dollars.
That sounds great. Does anybody else have any comments, suggestions, ideas? We're good? Okay. We'll make a motion that the board approve $250 from the promotions budget for prizes associated with the Spring into the Riverwalk promotion. Can I have a mover?
I'll move.
Karen, seconder?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next recommendation, this is also kind of a cross between the promotions and the beautification committee, that the BIA approve up to $5,000 total from the promotions and beautification budgets to support the implementation of the Riverwalk Promenade, to cover costs including fixed and branded signage, marketing and promotions, and entertainment costs during the promenade periods. And Justin, are you?
I'll jump in here again.
Okay.
So we did, again, this was something that I think we discussed more generally during the last meeting. The promenade was approved as a pilot, that the first section will be the around the Canada Day weekend. And if anyone forgets, the promenade would be the Edward Street between King Street and Water Street. We'd be closing down that section of Edward Street to vehicular traffic for the period and activating it using things like one of the movable parkettes, bistro tables, signage, and then having entertainment, whether it be musicians, buskers, carnival-like activities down in there, and just creating sort of a connection between the Water Street waterfront area and the King Street downtown BIA business area. So in order to fully actualize this, we will need to expend some funds to do so, to really do the full activation that I think it warrants if we want to see the full impact from it. So for the fixtures that would go in there, whether it be the parkettes or the tables, those will be repurposed from the other parkette locations and downtown activations, that as part of which we'll be discussing in a later report. But for the particular activation of the promenade for those periods, we do need to purchase or to fund both entertainment. The idea being that we'd have entertainment similar to the farmers market down there outside of those hours. So it could be acoustic performers, carnival type performers, jugglers, that sort of magicians, that sort of thing, as well as we're thinking about things like wellness activities, wellness days, if that's yoga instructors, perhaps not right on that pavement there, but in a nearby location, while having a wellness day in there. We need to promote this to ensure that people both know that they can't turn south there during that period, and that they know that these activities are going on to draw more people down in there. So we'd be doing radio, print, and social promotions, advertising, marketing leading up to it. And although I do not have open the original rendering that went around, you may recall from that one of the sort of key visibility pieces of that was the gateway sign, which would sit underneath the level of the existing lights, but well off the ground. And we could do a large Riverwalk Promenade entrance sign that people would see when they're coming down Edward Street, draw into that location. So in the case of the signage especially, this is something that can be repurposed for future promenades, whether the location is there or whether it moved to a different location in future years. And just the ability to fully fund both the entertainment activation and the marketing of it is something that I think will be key to the success of the whole undertaking, drawing people there, making it a living space, connecting people between the marina waterfront and the downtown core. And as Tracy mentioned, it's sort of a divided between that beautification budget. The signage, I think, because it would be more of a fixed asset, fits better within that particular budget to look at either in there or even theoretically through reserves, because you will be able to repurpose it at different locations and in future years. Whereas the other $3,000 is more directly related to promotional costs. And I believe this project will promote the BIA as a whole. So I think it's something that fits well within your mandate, as this is a pretty key activation, I think, for the summer.
Justin, do you have like an amount that you think like for that whole activation week that you're looking at?
the total costs, I don't know if Dana, you'd have an idea off the top of your head, but this would just be.
So this is setting aside the actual parquet areas, I assume, Tracy, from that? Because it's kind of that balance of there's some physical cost affiliated with it, which would be fully covered by the Canada Community Revitalization Fund if we are so successful in that request. And then as far as the promotions and of course, there's going to be a lot of additional amenities that we would have to bring in, many of which Justin has summarized in his report. But I would say overall, we would probably be looking at, I would say, a total cost of 10 to 15,000, possibly even upwards of 15,000, because we're also looking at installing lights, light standards, some permanent, investing in some permanent furnishings as well. So there's definitely a significant cost above and beyond what's going to be funded through the CCRF. That's strictly going to cover the patio.
Just a reminder to everybody too, that the promenade was something that the board did endorse. Does anybody have any other comments, suggestions, questions? So we'd be looking at this as part of our budget, 2,500 from each. Sorry, I think I cut somebody off.
So just a question on the promenade, in terms of the gateway signs and that kind of thing, will there be BIA branded? Will there be a reflection that the BIA has contributed to that?
So that's really what we were proposing. And I think if the original concept actually we had branded it the Riverwalk Promenade. So it would definitely, on all of that signage, any of the banners that we do, it would all have the, sponsored by the Business Improvement Association, nod to it, certainly on anything that is actually funded by the board itself.
Okay.
And I would say, after just kind of looking at oh, there you go, Justin. Thank you. I just pulled up my own little spreadsheet here. So I'd say we're probably closer to 10 once in the actual cost. So it would be more of a matching thing, I would say, from the BIA for that. But there's quite a bit once you factor in the promotions, the lighting, the signage, a lot of which is permanent, but still pretty extensive.
And even our line for the stage at the farmer's market, is that something that could be movable as well?
The banner itself?
Yeah, the banner itself. Like, oh, sorry. I was thinking like for the entertainment portion.
I think, Justin, that's, you should, I think that's what you had suggested as part of that we would actually mobilize that stage, right?
Yeah, and I mean, like when I was talking in the previous one, just more of the general market one. So whenever we'd move the market, we'd move it. But I mean, you're to be helping fund the entertainment down here as well. So you could do the very same thing down here with the same banners when they're set up for music.
And of course, all of our digital promotions too, our advertising, the marketing that we do around that, not just the signage, would of course have including the BIA logo and noting that it's been supported.
Could I have a mover then? Do we want to move tonight? That the BIA approve up to $5,000 total from the promotions and beautification budgets to support the implementation of the Riverwalk Promenade, to cover costs including fixed and branded signage, marketing and promotions, and entertainment costs during the promenade periods. Could I have a mover?
I'll move that. I just think that sorry. I think it's really important that we do everything we can right now as things are opening up to show that we are supporting the downtown and we're supporting all of these great initiatives and ideas.
Mhm. Can I have a seconder? Pearl? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, next, downtown beautification parquet fixtures. Recommendation from the committee that the BIA board approve an allocation of $15,000 for the purchase of an additional downtown parquet and appropriate fixtures to be installed seasonally in the Riverwalk district starting in 2022. And I think, Justin, you have some pictures, or Dana, you have
Yes.
some pictures you can show us?
I'm going to pull up the pictures here now. Although I'm having.
It's a large file, that could be.
Do you have them open, Dana? Because I'm having some freezing issues with the live stream and everything going.
Where are we here? Of course, it's the agenda package. It's going to open. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So this is, well, this is one of the visuals right here. So this is essentially what we're proposing for the downtown patio parklets. So they're called parklets because that is essentially what they are. They're installed in a parking space. So what we're recommending is decommissioning 2 parking spaces within the downtown core that would accommodate 2 of these parklets. And they could be furnished with something as simple as a couple of bistro tables. So as you'll see, you know, they've got some decking that keeps them, that brings them up to grade with the sidewalk. So it's a nice seamless transition for pedestrians to move from the sidewalk into these spaces. And they've got fencing on the outer perimeters, so that keeps them secure and safe from the vehicular traffic that's passing by on the streets. And it's really meant to encourage, you know, people to spend time in the downtown. It's really intended to be a placemaking strategy, as well as support some of the businesses that don't have patio spaces or don't really have the ability to use their sidewalks for some of those patio areas. We have quite a few restaurants in the downtown that are, you know, more of the quick service type of variety. And a lot of people may just be looking to grab something to go and would love to have a place to sit within the downtown and enjoy lunch or a coffee from one of our great coffee shops, or just a handheld snack from one of the local convenience stores or the drugstore. And it's really, the intent is to try and keep people in the downtown as long as we possibly can, versus venturing off into other areas and possibly finding themselves in other communities. And it's this is one of the main images, and I'm just going to take you through kind of a sampling. Sorry, my laptop's dying here, so I'm getting distracted trying to find my cord. Okay. So, so these are just a few examples of what can be done. This is a much larger version. This would take up 2 parking spaces, but you'll just see this is a little bit different. This is more just like a casual seating area, a place where people can maybe take a rest break, check out their phones. As you can see, I'm pretty sure everyone on here has got their faces buried in their phones, checking messages, or and it's really just a place, you know, we would have some casual seating, couple of planters put in there, maybe some sunshades as well, as you'll see in one of the concepts to follow. But that's really the intent, is to provide people with that space to sit down and relax and enjoy the downtown. And this is another good example, kind of similar to the previous one that I showed with the bistro style tables. Very simple installation. As you'll see, this example was done by Tourism Hamilton. So they've got a banner up there, and they've got just some nice little flower boxes. And it would be adjacent, as you can see, they've got some signage here encouraging people to come just sit and enjoy the patio. And here's another example. We thought this one was fun too, where it actually has some gaming tables. So you could play chess or checkers as you're sitting there, and just an opportunity to spend some time in the downtown. And this would be also a nice kid-friendly installation that we could look at as well. So we provide just a broader mix of things for different demographics. And another example, just with some, pretty standard bistro tables, but as you'll see, I included this picture just to show how it's a nice transition right from the sidewalk into this patio space. And it really encourages people to take an opportunity and have a little rest break in the downtown. And this is another example with the actual sunshades installed, which I really liked. I thought it would be a good option for the parkettes that we're proposing, because they're also intended to provide a bit of a patio space for some of those restaurants. So we would expect that people may want to sit a little bit longer in these spaces and have a little bit of sun protection. And this would be a little bit more from a maintenance perspective, probably easier to maintain, because if we get into patio tables with umbrellas, someone's got to take responsibility for raising and lowering those umbrellas every day. And I know that may sound like something simple, but it's just adding to that ongoing requirement. So we want them to be as self-sustainable as much as we can, and really just regular monitoring to ensure there's no issues or deficiencies that need to be remedied. And there's another example. So this is a nice example that's used by a restaurant where they've taken up the full sidewalk for their patio. And then there's a pedestrian walkabout that's actually been installed in the parking area, so that pedestrian traffic isn't interrupted by the actual sidewalk patio. But I think what we're seeing more and more is a lot of them, this would be very similar to Brockville, actually. Brockville has installed quite a few of these, and this would almost be the identical setup to what they are doing. And it also keeps the patio space immediately adjacent to the restaurant, so it's a lot easier for the serving staff. So if it is a serviced patio where it's something a little bit more privatized and it's owned by the restaurateur themselves, it's a lot easier to manage from a service perspective. But we're really proposing more the public ones, where they're just kind of standalone spaces, and if we have some people that want to grab takeout from the restaurants, then they could go and sit in these areas. And then we're proposing one for the base of the clock tower, which would actually be located right within the parking area. So that's meant to really, add to the farmers market and enhance the Riverwalk stage that the BIA is just so graciously approved some budget for. So we're really excited about that space and the farmers market, and really growing that out and making that a real vibrant focal point of the downtown. And we think that the installation of a patio space which would be about twice the size of one of these in that area, would be a great addition and really draw some interest, not only to the downtown, but to the farmers market as well when it's operating. So that's essentially what we're proposing. We've applied to the CCRF fund for funding to cover the cost of these patios and parklet installations, but it's really just to cover essentially the decking, the patio itself. So when it gets into looking at furnishings, some of these other amenities that we want to put in there, like the planters and maybe, gaming tables, seating, sunshades, a lot of those other aspects we would still be required to fund on our own. So that's really what we're bringing forward for consideration to the BIA tonight. If there's interest in the board in allocating some monies towards these patio spaces, which would be permanent installations in the downtown through May to October. And they're fully portable, so they're modular. They can be relocated from one spot to another. And that's why we're suggesting that we would also use one of these patios within the promenade that we're proposing for this summer.
Okay.
So that's basically it for my report.
Dana, how many are you looking at?
So 3 total. And if we're successful, I think CCRF might fund 2 if we're lucky, and really isn't going to address the full amenities that we're envisioning for these spaces. So there will be a town contribution, of course, required as part of that. So that's where we would come in and ideally fund the actual infrastructure to create the space. But above and beyond that, there's significant expenses for really building these things out and fully activating them.
And I think for the board's consideration, I omitted to say that we were, our recommendation was thinking about funding it from our reserves. Just to point out, the 2019, 2020, 21, we've put about $30,000 into our reserves. So it might be something to look at, you know, drawing from there with monies we weren't able to use during the pandemic. I can't see everybody. Does anybody else have any suggestions, comments, concerns?
I love the idea of it. I'm just wondering who would be responsible for keeping the area clean. So, you know, you've got bistro tables out, people are going there, they're eating their lunch, that sort of thing. Who is that the town that will monitor that, like on a periodic basis, or?
Yeah, so our operations department is out and about, you know, in the community on a regular basis. They're doing regular checks throughout the downtown and the rest of the community. And there would be garbage receptacles, recycling receptacles placed in the areas or, you know, very close nearby to really encourage people to, you know, dispose of their own garbage. And of course, if there's any issues or spills, we would report those to the operations department. We would also post, there's like just a call-in number that can be used by anyone from the public to report concerns. So I would suggest that maybe we actually post that number so that people can report any concerns with the spaces.
Yeah.
And I just realized I forgot to actually scroll down and take you through where, you know, essentially we're proposing these to be located. So that's just a map showing the one patio site. One would be at the base of the clock tower in the municipal parking lot, and then patio site 2 would be more in the area of the Outpost Cafe, the new apartment building. We've got a new cafe and bar coming in on the north side, as well as Boomer's renovation happening, and the Prescott Sub Shop around the corner. And then you've got Bobby's and Popolari's just a little bit further down as well. So I think, you know, the hope is that people are grabbing food and traversing through the downtown and they would come upon these spaces. And then patio site 3, you've got that very close to restaurants such as the Turkish, Mr. Mozzarella, Tim's Fish and Chips. And just they're all in very close proximity to a lot of our destination businesses, whether they be destination retail or service businesses. They're in areas, I think, where people would be looking to maybe kill a little bit of time and, you know, spend some time in the downtown and maybe looking for that natural place of rest.
I love it.
I love it too. I love the fact that, you know, it's getting people to come downtown and stay downtown. I also love the idea that they can be moved.
Yeah, I do too. I think that was really, I think, a critical piece for us is we wanted that ability to, and it also, you know, depending as the need changes, right? Our commercial things change quickly in the downtown, and as things change, we'd like to be able to support that and creating, you know, these placemaking strategies and also having them for things like special events such as the promenade.
And I also think it's also very forward looking. Like you see this kind of thing in larger cities, you know, so we're taking ideas from larger cities and we're importing them into our community and making them work for us. I love it.
We're excited.
Yay.
Awesome.
I'm excited to see people sitting on them.
Does anyone else have any comments?
Just for clarification, the $15,000 that we're proposing, this is out of reserves, but this is to cover the cost of one parquet, right? Including fixtures. Do I have that right?
Yes, essentially. So I would suggest, personally, I think I would recommend that we utilize the $15,000 to fully activate all three of them. So we're essentially receiving enough in funding based on what, if we're successful, and what the municipal allocation would be in ideally funding the base infrastructure, right? The decking. But beyond that, that's where it would really be looking to the BIA to provide that additional funding support. So if you so chose that you wanted to allocate all of that towards, say, patio site 1, then we could essentially, we could look at it that way. Or you could actually allocate $15,000 and have it kind of spread across all 3 sites and really fully activate all 3 of those in tandem.
I think I like that idea better.
The spreading the money out amongst the 3 of them.
Mhm. Yeah.
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 Well, yeah, I guess kind of works out the same way no matter how you look at it, I guess.
Well, it does, but at the same time, even from a promotional standpoint, I think it becomes more of a partnership then, right? Because we recognize that all 3 of them are really going to benefit the downtown or intended to be a support for that the BIA area. And then you would receive the credit as, not credit, so to speak, but, be named as far as being supportive of that initiative and be included on any promotions that we're doing. We would, of course, have signage, similar to just the little A-frame sign that you saw with the Hamilton Tourism one, encouraging people to use the patio, giving them a little bit of instructional, as to what these are for, so people realize that they aren't private patios for the restaurant, so to speak.
So what would the next step be, Dana? Does this have to go before council, get approval to take over the parking spots, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so as far as getting approval on the location, we would have to get their endorsement of decommissioning those parking spots to accommodate the 2 King Street patios. And that will come, I would say, in tandem with the CCRF funding.
Anybody else have anything to add? I can't see everybody, but. Okay. Would somebody like to make the motion, or would you like me to make the motion? That the BIA board approve an allocation of up to 15,000 to fully activate all 3 parquets. Is that how you call it, Dina? Parquets or parklets?
Yes.
Okay. Where am I? And yes, so to fully activate all 3 parquets using funds from BIA reserves. And may I have somebody to?
I'll make the motion.
Kevin?
Yep.
A
Second. I'll second.
Dana, could you not share your screen for a sec so I can see everybody?
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'll second.
Okay, Belinda will second, and all in favor.
Aye.
Okay,
It's exciting.
that is really exciting.
I can't wait to see them. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't said it. There's no timeline on this yet, is there, Dana?
Well, we're shooting for this year, ideally, like we're in the process of confirming specs and actually getting costing and creating the plans for these. So we are very hopeful that we are going to see these installed this year, and at the very least, the one at the base of the clock tower, and purchase all of the infrastructure and amenities that we need and fully launch them all in the spring of 2024 or 2023. We're only in 2022. But I would also suggest, for the Market Square one, that is kind of going to be the flagship space, right? So I think it's recognized that that really is the key area that we're really activating this year, and where the lion's share of the BIA's allocation would essentially go towards, right? You're going to get, full credit for supporting and the other two as they come, and investing in some of the amenities that we're actually going to be installing there. But the Market Square one, that's really meant to be the flagship, and I think where we would kind of be directing the lion's share of the marketing and just that broader support.
Will we get to pick the fixtures?
We're definitely open to collaborating on ideas. What we would do is bring forward, this is kind of what we're proposing for each, once we have a much better idea of what we're suggesting. But we're really thinking it's going to be pretty similar to what you've seen, except it'll be a combination of Adirondack chairs and bistro tables.
Yeah.
And then some planting installations. And it's really just a matter of whether we have one dedicated with more the casual seating, or try and do a mix of the bistro tables and Adirondack chairs within each of the spaces.
I love the way the one with the red bistro chairs and tables, that looked awesome.
Well, and I think that's what we really want to do too, is make them as colorful as possible, right? We really envision like a rainbow of colors, whether it be in the Adirondack chairs or the bistro tables or umbrellas, that everything we do really brings some, pop and vibrancy to the downtown, whether we're talking about the Instagrammable locations or these patio spaces, or potentially the Prescott pop-ups. It's really about, animating and bringing vibrancy to these spaces as well.
I like the shade sail kind of version. I like that.
Yeah, I'd like to explore whether they could even be found in a different color versus just the black. I know the black, I would say, probably attracts more heat than anything. I wonder if maybe looking at a different color might be an option. But I'm sure those that they come in a variety of colors too. So maybe we could even look at adding some vibrancy in those.
Okay, thank you very much, Dana. The next recommendation and final recommendation, thank you, everybody, that the board allocate and approve $5,000 from existing reserves to support the purchase of an additional pop-up store building for the Riverwalk pop-up shops installation. And Dana or Justin, did you want to give us some background, please?
Certainly. I'm just going to share my screen again here. Okay. So this is a very rough, this is just a quick little, just to give you a sense of where we're talking about, just to get a lay of the land. So essentially what we're proposing, we've applied for funding through the CCRF fund again for pop-up shops. These would be temporary structures that are placed along the waterfront, and we've identified two key areas, one of which would be at the base of the lighthouse, and that would be more reserved for like a restaurant, cafe style that may have a need for power, hydro, water, some of those other, the services that wouldn't necessarily be available out in the middle of a field. And then we're recommending the other site being the essentially the open land that abuts the parking areas that were actually just recently connected last year. This is an old picture, so please ignore that. These lots are now one big parking lot. So it runs just right in between those lots and the marina. So you're looking at King Street to the north and then Water Street to the east there. So we thought this would be a great location for these temporary pop-up shops. We've talked about this for some time, creating a bit of a business incubator for entrepreneurs that are interested in maybe a brick and mortar space, but aren't quite prepared yet to make the leap into a year-round brick and mortar downtown location. So we thought this would be a really good business incubator initiative to allow entrepreneurs to, maybe get their feet wet, dip their toes into it for on a seasonal basis, say through May to October, to sell and promote service products, whatever it may be. And hopefully, ideally, we would eventually like to see them transition, if it's successful, transition into hopefully leasing a location within the Riverwalk district for a permanent business venture in the downtown. So that's really the broader intent behind this, but it's also really just a tourism initiative to try and encourage more visitation and add, another attraction to the community, and to kind of fit with the great mix of attractions that we already have here. So we thought this would be a great opportunity. We've applied for funding to essentially purchase these temporary structures, and they would be leased out to entrepreneurs on a seasonal basis through May to October. And we're actually just working on an expression of interest right now. So you'll be seeing very soon, we'll be putting a call out to potential businesses to actually put a proposal in to maybe lease one of these spaces for the spring, summer, and fall period. So we're really envisioning a mix of businesses, everything from, say, cafes to maybe a retail boutique, to possibly a bike rental shop, to maybe a wellness provider, and hopefully expanding these moving forward, and really start with a smattering of them, and then depending on the interest, hopefully blow this up into something much larger that maybe expands out along the entire waterfront area eventually. So what we're proposing is that the BIA consider allocating funding for one of these pop-up shops. It's based on what we've requested through CCRF. It's becoming quite clear that it's going to be a fairly expensive undertaking to provide these, as well as the amenities that are going to be needed to really make them a success, and make them as appealing as possible for a potential entrepreneur to lease for the summer period. So it's that shortfall is what we're hoping maybe the BIA would consider taking on, so that we can really realize the our initial vision for this, which would be 5 at minimum of these pop-up shed opportunities. So the next one just gives you an actual visual of what these could look like in on the waterfront here in Prescott. So these are just examples of successful pop-up shop developments that have already been implemented in other communities. A lot of them, we're seeing some local communities do it, but it's mostly kind of seaside areas that have been exploring this and seeing a lot of great success. And it's really adding, a whole new area to the actual business district and creating a great business development opportunity all at the same time. So I also included, there's a holiday one here. So we were envisioning that these could potentially even be converted into a holiday market around, December, certain times of the year, that they wouldn't necessarily just have to be a May to October venture, and they would be fully mobile. So they could be picked up and moved from one location to another, depending on where we're using them, if they're part of a broader event or part of this more permanent pop-up shop venture that we're proposing. So this would be more of like a garden shed type of structure. But we're also seeing in a lot of communities, they're going with more the shipping container can style of option. And to be honest with you, I think, we're really kind of gravitating more towards the shipping container option. Well, first of all, they're extremely secure. They're fully modular. They come in a variety of different sizes. You can really activate them, as you'll see, you've got the shipping container itself, which provides you with that base. But what a lot are doing is really creating these outdoor spaces for their retail area. So they're really building them out with some decking and, some additional coverage like this tent area to create a full outdoor merchandise space. As you'll see in one of the pictures here, they've even installed awnings on them, again, to just really build out that area. And they're vibrant and colorful, and they really pop. Whether you're looking at these or the previous kind of wooden style structures, we would again propose that we paint them in a rainbow of colors to really draw that attention and interest to them. And actually, as a bit of an afterthought, what we were thinking is it could be a really great local initiative if we looked at partnering with maybe the Arts Guild. And you can just see here the kayak one in the bottom left-hand corner. This is an example. They didn't have the greatest pictures, but this is just a piece of one that actually this community partnered with, again, a very similar local artisans guild, and they came up with different themes to paint the sea cans in. And they were all based on, the attractions of the community. And then the Arts Guild actually came in and painted them in these beautiful scenes. So I would envision, one could be Centennial Park with Kelly's Beach or the splash pad. Another could be a scene of Fort Wellington on it. Another one could have the marina and really just some of the great attractions and assets that we have in the community. Another one could be like a streetscape showing the downtown core. So this is just kind of the idea, just to give you a sense of the visual, really, with what we're recommending here and what we're suggesting that the BIA consider allocating some funding towards. So that's basically it, unless the members have any questions or comments. This was really just, like I say, to give you more of a visual.
Have you looked into the cost difference between the, I'm thinking the first ones that you were showing us were wood-based, and then the sea cans? Is there a big difference in price?
So the sea cans is very exploratory at this point. It's more, I'll be honest with you, it's more of an afterthought that has really just come to us in the past couple of weeks. Our original intent was more the wood structures, because from a supplier standpoint, we know that there are some suppliers in the region. We've got a fairly good sense of, depending on the size that you want to go with, you're looking at anywhere between, $5,000 to $10,000 per structure. For the sea cans, though, we've just done some initial research, and I believe we've got a line on a couple of suppliers that actually modify them for just these purposes. So we're just kind of exploring the pricing, but we're speculating they may be quite a bit more cost effective than what we'd be looking at to purchase more of this garden shed style of structure. But I think what we're really hoping to do is offer a mix of them, even depending on the type of business that's coming in. For example, the cycle shop, I think, would be a great use for maybe the sea can option, whereas maybe someone who's more of like a retail boutique or say an ice cream shop, maybe one of the wooden structures would be better suited for that type of venture.
Yeah, and I just think on the waterfront, the wooden structure would just look classier. It would just look better. I mean, I'm not opposed to the sea can. We have two of them ourselves for hometown heating, so I'm not opposed to those. I just really like the look of the wooden structures, and I think it's a fantastic idea. I think it's brilliant. We need something like this, especially along that riverfront that can really bring the boaters in and attract more people. I think it's great. Yeah, I would definitely be willing to swing my vote this way. Yeah, it's great, 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 great.
I think what's great about it too is it's within our budget. I mean, in the past, we've always talked about, wouldn't it be great if we could lease a space downtown and use that as kind of an incubator for different people, but budget wise, the $5,000 probably is a good investment.
Yeah, once we have them, we have them.
Yeah, that's right.
So just a quick
Hopefully-
question in terms of how we get electricity to these units. Will they have generators?
So the thought process is for these is that they would really be more of a solar power option. So we would be looking, exploring those options.
Okay.
We're really trying to, from a Wi-Fi perspective, we
Yep.
do have
Yep.
public Wi-Fi that we can explore. So that's really why we were thinking more of a restaurant cafe for the one at the base of the lighthouse, because they would have more those power provisions, right? They've got water, they've got hydro. We're really envisioning that the ones that would occupy these ones out in the parkland area would be, relatively self-sufficient, not really require a whole lot from a power perspective. And then we can also, I've talked to our CAO about the ability to bring in solar light standards as
Okay.
well, so that we can provide more that pedestrian kind of broader lighting for the space itself. And then we would, of course, look at equipping them with solar powered options, but we certainly aren't necessarily looking at putting permanent power in. Something else we've talked about exploring is having portable power stations brought in. A lot of times for special events, you can just use essentially a local electrical contractor to come in and bring portable power stations in. So we're really just kind of exploring those options, but we're planning on putting a call for interest out to the community and kind of planning out those provisions as the expressions of interest are coming in, so that we're not over planning as far as, what's going to be needed if we don't really get a request for a whole lot of those requirements, but at least ensuring that we can satisfy whatever requests are coming forward.
Well, yeah, basically we do have to make sure that we're going to have enough there to make sure that their POS requirements will be covered, right?
Yeah.
So the other
Sorry,
thought
go
I
ahead.
had was, are we only looking at leasing one facility from May to October, or are we looking at different options?
So we would have the hope is to have all 5 available, as well as the lighthouse. We're also looking at leasing out the lighthouse for one of these pop-up shops as part of this this broader venture. So essentially we would have 6 spaces.
So usually as a pop-up though, it's like kind of, it shows up and then it disappears. So how does that get managed? Are we anticipating that one enterprise is going to rent the pop-up location for the entire season?
Yes, so
Or-
these are seasonal pop-ups. These are not like
Okay.
your month, 2-week pop-up type of things. And the required commitment from an entrepreneur would be the full season. We would request that you submit a proposal to lease it from May to essentially end of September. Just from a broader management perspective, we just simply don't have the capacity, right, to get into managing
No, agreed.
multiple tenants. So that's kind of the way we're envisioning them, is that you would commit to the full season.
Dana, in terms of like, once you get an expression of interest from an entrepreneur, what type of like screening process are you thinking? Like, just to make sure that we're not duplicating, a business that's already downtown or, a type of business that we are looking for that we'd love to have on board.
Yeah, so we're just in the process of developing that expression of interest and the terms, vetting the terms of what that's more than open to entertaining if there's suggestions or, a focus that the group wanted to take more for the one that they're really sponsoring. we could certainly look at that, or identifying, that broader range of business types that we're really hoping to attract. I think we've got a pretty good handle on the mix, and I think a good sense on what the need is or where those gaps lie, but we're certainly open to suggestions from the board.
What kind of rent would you be looking at?
So again, we're really just kind of fleshing out all these details and determining based on the interest as well as the provisions that we're going to have to look at installing. It's going to be very different, right? You may have one vendor that requires very little from a provisions perspective, and another that may, have to pay for additional hydro, water, whatever it may be. So very flexible. We certainly aren't creating a rigid, and they're going to be different sizes too. So that's really where we're trying to get a better sense of, what the demand is first, and then really kind of enter into these negotiations with individual vendors, still having a basic set of parameters established so that we're all, everyone's playing from the same deck of cards, so to speak. But it's a very individual thing, right? They're going to be different sizes, different requirements. So.
Okay, and going back to the map of the location, it's in, from what I could see, that's a good location to the washroom too, right? Because this is the washroom over here to the left. So that's
you've got the marina
so
building
that's
right
a great proximity there for both the vendors themselves and then their clientele. So that's great. Yeah,
and that
I
would
really
be
like
available to the vendors for sure. The washrooms that would be made available to them as the public washrooms. Marina's open until 8 p.m. every evening. And, we really are anticipating a lot of these pop-up shops would be open much past, those early evening hours, right? It would probably be very similar hours of operation as some of the downtown merchants. So we weren't envisioning a significant requirement necessarily for the on-site power and lighting, right? More just that ambiance that we're trying to create.
Could we make a stipulation, all of the pop-up shops had to stay open like a consistent hours so that you don't have one closing at 4 and then one closing at 6? And is that something that you could do in a lease agreement?
I think we would absolutely want to look at that, depending on the type of business, that it just makes sense for certain retailers to maintain the same hours. If it's, a boutique, a retail boutique, then we're absolutely going to want them to be open for consistent hours, along with any sort of food service vendors that we have down there. Maybe when it comes to, say, if you have like a recreational equipment rental provider, well, they may only rent their, scooters or bikes or whatever it may be, or kayaks or paddle boards during the day. Right. So it would, again, somewhat be based on the actual type of vendor that we have in there.
Anybody else have anything to, any other comments?
I just wanted to mention about security. What security would they have kind of in that field? It's a little bit out of the way.
So the sheds or pop-ups themselves would have, be fully secured, locking, of course. That's where we were thinking the shipping container option might actually provide merchants with a bit more of that peace of mind from a security standpoint, right? Because you can close those doors and padlock them, and there's they're very hard to penetrate once you've done that. Whereas the sheds are a little bit easier if they've got lots of windows, decorative, window panes and things like that, and doors that are maybe a lot easier to pry open. We're certainly cognizant of that, but the marina does have a fairly robust security system installed there. I can tell you our bylaw does regular patrols, especially during the summer months of that area. OPP are down there on a regular basis. I frequently encounter them. I live at, fairly close to the area, and I see a lot of activity, especially into the wee hours. So I think there's a lot of patrolling going on, but there's no reason that we couldn't look at installing an additional security camera. I'm sure that may be able to connect into the marina system. Definitely a good comment and something that I'm going to note here to explore with Matthew following the meeting.
And the insurance requirements who is insuring the buildings?
So the buildings themselves would be owned, they would be an asset of the town. So they would be insured by us. And the vendor may have to possess some of their own insurance, kind of similar to like our farmers market vendors would be. That's kind of what I'm anticipating, but that's certainly a conversation that we need to have with the CAO, but we're definitely cognizant of that conversation that needs to be explored as well.
And if they modify the building, or if they're successful in a season, do they have priority to apply for the next season?
I think that's something we really hadn't even gone there, Dawn. I won't lie to you. That's something that we really hadn't, as far as like a first right of refusal over next year. But I would say that's something we should certainly consider.
Yeah, I
if
think
someone has committed to giving us their full and renting for a full season, that
and a lot of the modifications that you showed in the pictures, those are fairly expensive, right? So if you want somebody to have good signage and good modifications on the outside of the building, I don't know how many people could afford to do that just for one season and then not know that they could come back the following season.
Yeah, and a lot of those amenities, we're really looking at having, as far as decking, things of that nature, the actual cutouts of the doors and windows. If we were looking more of the shipping container variety, we would have all of that in place. And then, to your point, Dawn, some of those additional amenities, if they wanted to look installing awnings, things of that nature, we would certainly want to have provisions in place. So, to protect their investment as well.
Everybody, so, okay, perfect. Okay. So would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make it. Now, is 5,000 enough? And what do we have left in reserves?
So Karen said there was 52,000 total
Okay.
currently.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've committed tonight to 22,250 is what we've committed to before the pop-up stores.
Only 15 of that's coming from the reserves.
Right, 15.
So you'd be at 37 right now, 37 something in that reserve number.
Okay, so is 5,000 enough? Is that a realistic number?
I would say for the cost of the actual structure itself, yeah, I definitely believe that is a realistic number based on the research that we've done, especially when looking at the shed option. They were pretty much right in line with that. Now that would granted be one of the smaller units. Certainly it's not going to be the large 10 by 16 unit, but I think that would probably be more where the BIA is headed, because that's the type of merchant that's most likely to be transitioning into like a downtown brick and mortar location.
Right. Okay. Okay. So yeah, I'll make the motion then that the BIA give the town $5,000 towards the pop-up initiative from our reserves.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion carried. Awesome. Okay, do we have any new business from members? tonight? No. I have a piece of new business. Karen unfortunately has submitted her resignation to pursue a career opportunity. And I think we all agree that we're going to really miss her and that she's contributed a lot to the board. But we wish her every success in her new opportunity. And thanks so much, Karen, for all of your contributions.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be a part of this board, and especially I find like the last 2 years, just the cooperation and the collaboration between the BIA and the town, and just what we're accomplishing. Like sitting here tonight, listening to all, like it's so exciting, all the improvements that are being made, and I think it's you've got a really great board here, and I'm gonna miss being a part of it.
We're gonna miss you.
Thank you very much, Karen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so anything else from anybody? No, we're good. I'd like to thank everybody tonight for being so patient and getting through everything we got through. I think we had a really great meeting, and we've shown the next 2 meetings for the committees. They're noted, so you'll be sent a link for that. And would somebody like to make a motion for adjournment?
Was there, before you make a motion, I just noticed in the agenda that under the new business and there was summer promotions.
How about we defer that to the next meeting?
We're more than welcome to. Just wanted to know, I just noticed it.
Yeah, no, thank you. We'll defer that to a committee. Okay. Kevin, and you seconded the motion for adjournment?
Yeah, I'll second the motion. Yeah, sure.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
That's great. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Okay,
Good
thank
night.
you. Ciao.